In this video, we're going to take a more detailed look at depreciation. So depreciation is what we call it when an object's value decreases over time. Depreciation is particularly important in businesses or other organizations where the value of the equipment that they have at hand or stock is an important factor. Businesses need to plan ahead so that there's enough money to replace equipment when it wears out or reaches the end of its useful life. When an object or piece of equipment reaches the end of its useful life, we say that it is written off. The useful life of an object will vary depending on the type of equipment or object that it is. So there's a couple of terms that are important to take a note of. So, as an object depreciates, its value decreases. The value of an object at any time after its starting value is what we call the written down value. So the value of an object after it has started to depreciate is called its written down value. Sometimes we call this written down value its book value. When an object reaches the end of its life, and we don't mean when it dies, we mean when it's no longer useful to the organization. For example, it might cost more to maintain than it is worth keeping on, so even though it's still worth some money, the business or organization is better off selling it and buying a new one. So at that point we say that it's reached the end of its useful life, and its value at that point, at the end of its useful life, its value is what we call the scrap value. Alright, so when an object depreciates over time, what we can do is create what's called a depreciation schedule. A depreciation schedule really just tracks the value of an object over the course of its useful life. So let's say it documents the changing value over its useful life. So the headings that we have in a depreciation schedule will be the year it is, the start value, the depreciation during that particular year, and the written down value. So, as an example, if we say that we have a photocopier which at the beginning of 2003 was scrapped for $2,970, and it depreciated by different amounts each year, we could create a depreciation schedule that looked a little bit like this. So in the year 1998, the photocopier was worth $15,800. During that year, its first year, its value decreased by $3,160. So the written down value at the end of that year would be $15,800 minus $3,160. The written down value, or the book value, would be $12,640. Now, that book value then becomes, in the next year, the start value for that year. In the next year, 1999, the photocopier's value decreased by $2,528. So again, if we look at our start value for that year, it's 12,640. We subtract from that the amount that its value has decreased over the course of that year, $2,528. Then we'll get our written down value for that particular year. And that's the way that a depreciation schedule works. We can continue to track the value of the object. In this case, the example we're using is a photocopier, each year as it reduces by whatever the amount of depreciation is for that particular year. Now, there's two types of depreciation that we're going to focus on. The first is what we call straight line depreciation. Straight line depreciation occurs when an object depreciates by the same amount each year. Okay, by the same amount each year. That's really important. So in our previous example, the depreciation amount each year was different. The first year, the value of our photocopier decreased by $3,160. The next year it decreased by $2,528. So this is not an example of straight line depreciation. In straight line depreciation, the value of the object decreases by the same amount each year. So we'll do an example of straight line depreciation where we have a fridge whose start value is $15,000. It depreciates using the straight line method. So that means it depreciates by the same amount each year. And its scrap value we'll say is $4,000, and its useful life is 4 years. So to track the value of this fridge through its useful life, we're going to construct a depreciation schedule using the straight line method. Before we can do that though, there's a couple of things that we do need to determine. So the first one will be the depreciation amount. So that's the total amount that the object's value has decreased by during the period of its useful life. So it's just going to be the difference between the start value and the scrap value. So we'll say the start value minus the scrap value. So in this case that'll be $15,000 minus $4,000, which is $11,000. The next thing we're going to work out will be the annual depreciation. So that is the amount that the object's value decreases by each year. So that'll be the depreciation amount divided by the number of years, which in this case will be $11,000 divided by 4 years, which is going to be 11,000 divided 4, $2,750. So we'll use that when we construct our depreciation schedule. So in our depreciation schedule, we're going to use our headings. Year, start value, depreciation amount, and written down value. So we'll go ahead and draw up our table. We're going to have 4 years in this depreciation schedule. Whoops. Never mind. So what we can do for straight line depreciation is actually go ahead and fill in the depreciation amount for each of those years, because it's going to be the same every year. $2,750. The fridge depreciates by value by the same amount each year. So that's again the definition of straight line depreciation. So the start value, 15,000. The written down value after the first year, 15,000 minus 2,750. We get $12,250. And that then becomes the start value at the beginning of the next year. We subtract another $2,750 to get $9,500, That then becomes the value at the start value at the beginning of the following year. We then get 6,7,500, which leaves us with $4,000 at the beginning of the at the end of the final year as the written down value. The reason that we call this depreciation method straight line depreciation is if we were to plot the value of our fridge over the course of our 4 years, so we had 5,000, 10,000, $15,000. What we'd find, starting at $15,000, after the first year, we're at 9,500, so that will be somewhere there. The second year, we're 6,750, so somewhere there. Oops, we've missed one. After the first year, we're 12,250, so that's more like something here. After the second year, we're 9,500, so that's somewhere here. And then we're 6,750, so that would be somewhere here. And finally, at 4 years, we're $4,000. And you can see that basically those points form a straight line, and that's why our that's why this depreciation method is called straight line depreciation.